Let's go ahead and get started. Hi, I'm Dr. Laura Froyen. I have my PhD in Human Development and Family Studies with a specialization in couple and family therapy. I am a peaceful parenting and respectful relationship coach and a self-compassion advocate. I help parents get clear on their goals and values so that they can begin prioritizing the things that truly matter to them and begin living in alignment with their deeper purpose. This week we're going to be chatting about 3 big reasons to bring more play and playfulness into your relationships with your children. Play is the natural language of childhood. It's one of the primary ways that children learn and explore their world. It's a safe and natural way for them to process big emotions and stressful situations. And it's a really natural way for them to build deep, loving, and connected relationships with their family members. Okay, so I want to start off this video by making it abundantly clear to everybody who's watching either live or later in the replay that that this talk is in no way intended to make you feel like you aren't doing enough as a parent, or that you haven't been using playfulness enough, or if playfulness hasn't felt natural or right in your parenting thus far, or in the past, that it's that you've done anything wrong. Okay, so I'm just offering this as a new tool, something that you can add to your toolbox if you haven't been doing it, or maybe some new ideas if you have been using it. But I in no way want you to feel bad or have this talk be guilt-inducing. This topic specifically has been a struggle for me in my own parenting journey, and so I'll share a little bit about that. I want you to know that it doesn't come naturally for everyone the way that it does for my sister, and sometimes we have to work at it, and that's okay too. So before I had my own children, I loved playing with kids. I was the babysitter that everyone wanted. I had no trouble getting really deep into their imaginative play. It was so much fun, especially with my niece and nephew. Before I had my own kids, it was just so much easier for me to do the playful thing. And I assumed that when I had my own kids that it would be the same or even better because they would be my own. But as it turns out, I didn't really realize that as a mom, I would have so many other demands on my time and my attention that playfulness would be something that I simply didn't have the energy for with my own kids. And it took me a while to realize that was the reason why being playful with my children felt more and more like a chore than it did with kids who were not my own, because there was so much wrapped up in being their mom. A parent-child relationship can be so laden with stuff, and I've really had to unpack and unburden my relationship with my kids a lot in order to be playful with them. I had to kind of filter through my fears and worries about obedience, and kind of my, some kind of socially ingrained thoughts about how children should be and behave towards their parents in order to be able to be playful with them. I had to let go of thoughts on obedience, and I had to let go of control and my kind of preconceived notions about how a parent-child relationship should be. So, for example, I avoided playfulness in many circumstances because I had this idea that if I needed playfulness to get my kids to do what I wanted them to do, then I wasn't being authentic and I didn't have any true authority with my children. And this came again from a place of obedience and control that I've really had to examine and let go of in my parenting. Another piece of playful parenting is that I see it used sometimes in ways that felt so much like distraction or dismissing of children's feelings that it made me feel really uncomfortable as I was starting to navigate being a respectful parent. And for example, like if a child is upset over a limit, and I sometimes see a parent use playfulness to distract them from being upset over that limit, that really felt wrong with me. And so I kind of just avoided it all in general because it didn't feel authentic and it didn't feel respectful. But I've had to shift that a little bit, and I've come to understand that at a certain point in time with a child's natural language is play. If their natural state of being, their natural preferred way to process information and to engage in doing things is through play, then there's nothing more respectful than to enter into their world in that play. to join them in play in order to get them to cooperate or process emotions with you. That it's not disrespectful, it's actually really respectful to start speaking their language with them, if that makes sense. And also, the more that I observed my children and allowed them to really teach me how they needed me to parent them, the more they showed me that in moments where they were resisting, what they really needed was connection with me. And that playfulness could help us get that connection that we both really needed. And when we had that connection, cooperation followed really, really smoothly. And it doesn't have to be used in a distracting or dismissing way. It can be used with intention and with purpose, and joining them in their world so that they not only accept our guidance, but they look forward to our guidance, that they enjoy it and come out the other side feeling more connected than ever, rather than disconnected through kind of demanding obedience. Has anybody else ever had that experience of feeling restrained in playfulness because you want to be an authority figure for your children, or just simply not knowing how to do it, or playing is hard at times with your kids when you're tired and you have all of these other responsibilities and there's so much else in your relationship that it's hard to just let go of those things and join them in their play? Tell me if that has resonated with you at all. I would love to hear your experiences. Okay, so the first part, so I mentioned that there were going to be 3 major areas or times where playfulness can help and benefit your relationship with your child. And the first one is that playfulness is a really great way to foster connection, a deep connection with your children. A deep connection is absolutely key to a peaceful and respectful approach to parenting, because it is the connection that is the very foundation of your relationship with your child, from which you get things like cooperation and mutual love and affection. So playing with your children is a wonderful way to build and deepen that connection. This means joining them in their world of play, letting them lead the play, seeing the inherent value of their play, like really deeply valuing what it is they're doing. Maybe even spending some time to just observe their play and kind of spend some time in wonderment of all they're learning and all they're doing in that play. And when you see that, when you start to recognize the value of it, you start to see how worth their time it is and how it's worth your time too, to invest in those things. I think that was one of my biggest roadblocks in playing with my children, is that I had all of these other things to do. At certain points I was in graduate school, I was writing my dissertation, I was attempting to get academic jobs, I was very stressed, and now I'm running my own business. There are always other pulls on my time, and it's easy to rank children's play lower on the list. But when we start really valuing and seeing how important that play is to our connection with our children and to their own development and well-being, we can bump it up the list, and then we maybe don't feel quite so resentful or quite so bored during their play when we're playing with them. So 10 to 20 minutes a day of dedicated, enthusiastic, fully present playtime with your children, where you aren't sneaking off to check your phone or distracted by work worries, can really fill your child's cup. If you can find a way to commit to playing with your kids for a set amount of time each day for the next week or so, where you can be really present with them, where you aren't afraid to be silly or to be dramatic or to put on costumes or try out silly voices, where you can wrestle and really follow their lead and just kind of see what it does for your relationship outside of these playtimes. Kids who feel connected and deeply valued by their parents are more likely to be cooperative when limits are imposed or requests are made, because that connection has been nurtured. And this is also something that I don't think can be faked very well. So you really have to be there and be authentic and present in the moment. I know I personally can't fake it very well. And I also can't do this playfulness thing when I'm overwhelmed or stressed or I haven't been taking good care of myself. And I tend to be honest with my kids about those limits. So if I'm tired and I just don't have it in me to play another round of whatever game it is that they want to play, I'll let them know this is the last time and then I need to take a break. And I handle and help them process any big feelings that might be coming up around that, or sometimes they just accept it and then play with each other. But I think it's okay to have clear limits about that. But what that means is that when I am engaged in play with them, I'm fully present, because I know I can always set a limit when I'm done, and then when it's time for me to have a break, I can set that limit and I can go take that break and that time for myself to recharge. Because it can be somewhat draining to play with kids this way, especially when we have all of these other worries and things on our plate. So aside from intentionally joining your children in their play with regularity, you can also use their natural love for play to your mutual benefit when you are dealing with things like transitions and limit setting and conflict. Play is a great tool for encouraging cooperation and sidestepping, kind of stepping around power struggles. For example, one evening, my 2.5-year-old, who we've always kind of butted heads on the teeth brushing issue. I don't know if you guys had that problem when you were brushing little's teeth, but at 2, it's a pretty common complaint, and we were starting to get in there where teeth brushing had shifted from being this nice connecting time where I was doing a caregiving activity to a place where she could kind of try out her power and control stuff, and that's a normal, developmentally appropriate thing that 2-year-olds do. So one evening she said to me, "I'm not brushing my teeth." And my old, less playful self probably would have just kind of stepped right up to the plate on that power struggle and said, "Yes, you are," and been a little bit more didactic and controlling. Instead, I chose to sidestep it and invite her into play in that moment. And so I acknowledged her feelings. I said, "You don't want to brush your teeth." And then I started a game for us. And I really hammed it up. I was really dramatic and goofy. So I said, "Ring, ring, 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 ring," pretending that the phone was ringing, and I answered it. And I kind of treated her to a one-sided conversation with a zookeeper who told me that all the animals had escaped from the zoo and that they were hiding in children's teeth and that they needed my help to find them. And the zookeeper told me exactly what we had to do. And I said, "Okay, I'll call you back when we have all the animals rounded up." And I hung up and I said, "Evie, did you hear that? The zookeeper told me that all the animals escaped from the zoo." And I really got into it. I was really acting and stuff. And she had this big grin on her face. I knew I had her hooked. And I said, "Should we find out what animals are hiding in your teeth? What do you think's hiding in your teeth?" And she knew immediately which ones were hiding in her teeth. And she told me, and we found them, and we had a great time. We got her teeth nice and clean. And then we called the zookeeper back, and she talked to the zookeeper on the phone and told the zookeeper all of the animals that she found in her teeth. And we did that again and again every night for the next few weeks. And sometimes we changed it up when she got tired of the zoo animals. We did the aquarium, or we did the construction team who lost all of their trucks, or we did the makers of Daniel Tiger who lost all of the friends in the neighborhood, and we had to find all of the Daniel Tiger characters. There's endless ways you can edit this game to make it work for you. What's great about it is that what was starting to become this kind of tension thing. She was starting to have bad associations with teeth brushing. We flipped it around. Whereas now, she no longer needs me to play that game with her, but she has this positive association with it. That teeth brushing is something that's fun. Mom and I get to be really silly together. We have a good time. We feel warm and snuggly after we do it. And she's shifted her narrative or her schema of what happens when we brush teeth. And so while she doesn't need that game anymore, she still thinks of it as a fun, joyful time. So that's one example of how I use playfulness in a situation that can be kind of mundane or boring, or that kids don't usually want to do. And you can harness this powerful tool in so many different situations, like getting dressed. One thing that my kids like to do when we're getting dressed is we will race to see if we can get our clothes on before the timer goes off on the food that we're warming up for breakfast, or I will get them dressed and put their clothes on wrong, like put their underwear on their head or their socks on their feet, or the socks do go on their feet, their socks on their hands, or try to put their shirts on their legs, like try to put their legs in the armhole, and we are just silly with it. And then they show me how to actually do it. No. That's not how you put on a shirt, mommy. And they, and I just pretend like I don't know what I'm doing. And it's fun. And we all know it's a game, and we feel connected and close when it's over. I think the biggest shift here for me is, as someone who wants to be respectful and authentic in my parenting, has been to get to a place again where I'm not faking it in these moments, where this is genuine for me. I'm genuinely enjoying trying to find a fun, creative solution to the more mundane tasks that, let's face it, even adults don't want to do. I mean, can you imagine if you had the skill of making teeth brushing fun and you had really positive memories of it? You'd want to do it more as an adult too. And the same thing with cleaning. Maybe some of you watching love cleaning your house, but I know that I don't. It's not my most fun thing to do. I'd much rather do something like reading or drawing or taking a walk than cleaning my house. But when my girls and I make it into a fun game, sometimes we pretend that we're playing Cinderella and we have to clean up the whole house. We turn it into a fun game, and I feel like I'm teaching them a valuable skill of turning mundane tasks into something fun that they'll be able to use for the rest of their life. And so I feel, for me, I've had to really come around to seeing playfulness not as something that is used to dismiss or distract children from their emotions, but rather something that is a really great tool that acknowledges where children are at in their development and acknowledges that this is something that they need, that comes naturally for them, that they're naturally very good at, and we can join them in their world and really take advantage of this natural capability that they have. And so then the last place where I think playfulness can be really, really powerful in your parenting, in your relationship with your children, is to use it to help prepare for difficult situations or help them to process difficult situations or big events or big emotions that have been coming up for them. So in these cases, we often have to take a little bit of a lead in setting up the game or getting the game going, but then we step back and follow the child. For example, if my kids are getting ready to go to the doctors, maybe they have to get a shot or get a blood draw, or if, for example, my husband and I are planning on having a night out and a babysitter is going to be putting them to bed that night, we will play a game about that a few times, usually where I'm the child and they're the parent or the doctor or the babysitter. And what's amazing about this is that while I'm playing, I'm observing what's happening in the play and what they're directing me to do. So, for example, in the babysitting thing, if they tell me, that I need to go to sleep, but then wake up, have a nightmare, and my parents are gone, and the babysitter has to come in because I'm scared and yelling, that clues me into a fear that they have, a worry of what will happen if I have a nightmare while you're gone and the babysitter has to come in. What will the babysitter do? And it clues me into some worry that they might be having about that. And then I also get to observe their interpretation of the events as the adults, where they say the words that maybe adults would say to them in those situations. So if as the doctor, they say things like, it might hurt a little bit at first, but it won't hurt for very long. Your mommy will hold your hand. If the child says if my child says those things to me, that's a clue to know, that's what she probably would like me to say to her when it's her turn to get the shot. And so it clues me into kind of the things that she needs. And it also can be really great for processing big events or scary events that have happened. One time my daughter was rushed by a dog at a park, and we played that a lot. Where a dog was being I was the dog, or no, she was the dog, and she was kind of being too aggressive with me. And we processed it and played it a lot over and over and over again, which is something that kids need to do. One person asked, This may be a completely different topic, but my biggest struggle in parenting with playfulness is when my mom is around with the kids. I feel like I have to parent her too, and if I do it playfully, she won't get it and will keep egging the kids on just to goof off and not do what they're supposed to do. So I end up snapping at my kids to get them to see that I'm serious. Okay, so it's almost like your mom is undermining you in these situations, right? This is something that I don't know what your relationship is like with your mom, but it's something that I would address with her when maybe the kids are in bed or the kids aren't around and it's just you and her. And I would just bring it up, not in an accusing way, but in a just, Mom, I've been trying to, do something a little bit different with my parenting. I'm trying to, when it's time to make a transition or when I have to set a limit, I've been trying to be a little bit more playful and silly while doing it. I've noticed that when I do that, my kids, respond better and we don't have any big meltdowns about it. And so I just was hoping to kind of get you on board with it. Do you think you can help me with that and kind of encourage her to get on board with that so that she knows what's happening? She might not know that you are playing, and so you might have to be upfront with her that you are playing with a purpose, that you have an intent, like an intention when you're being playful in that way. That you're playing and kind of serious at the same time. And so kind of getting her on your side, I think would be really beneficial. Let's see. And Wendy says, I know that you're going to address this, but how can you be playful when you aren't in a playful mood? I'm never in a playful mood when it comes time to set limits. And does playful parenting only refer to playfulness during times of conflict and discipline? In general, I'm not a fun type of parent either, so that doesn't always help. Okay, yes. So, no, we talked about that playful parenting doesn't happen just in the context of setting limits or times of conflict. You can definitely do it lots of other times. So I think that lots of parents have this issue. And for me, it absolutely was a big issue for me. I often didn't have the energy to be playful with my kids because I had so much else weighing on my mind and I just really couldn't do it. And so it took practice. It took kind of gritting my teeth and doing it. And it also took taking really good care of myself. So it needed to have more energy in order to be able to do it. And that meant I needed to do more consistent self-care things. I suffered from some postpartum depression with both of my children, and treating that also has made a huge difference in my ability to be playful. Depression can be pretty soul-sucking, and it's pretty hard to be playful if you don't have a soul. So treating, any underlying mental health issues, taking really good care of yourself can free up the mental space to be playful. And, I just noticed that Joy says, playful parenting gets easier with practice. It absolutely does. And, when it doesn't come naturally to you, you can also have some ideas or some kind of plans kind of in your back pocket and kind of plan them out ahead of time. It doesn't have to be spontaneous. I think that lots of people have this misconception that playful, fun parents are just spontaneous and creative on the spot. It often takes some planning and some thinking about some ideas. So journaling about it, coming up with some ideas, planning them out so that you can think about, the next time it's time to go to the car and everybody's having a really hard time getting there, what are some games that they might like to play? And how can I set those games up earlier? So for example, with my kids, when it's time to get out the door, we usually play an airplane game. And so about 5 minutes before, I start making the final call announcement over the PA. That's it, at the airport. Please everyone get your tickets ready. It's going to be time to board the plane soon. And, I have to come up with a plan because I'm not terribly spontaneous and creative in the moment. You can also build it into your routine. So that's something that's built into our routine now, our leaving routine or our dinner time transition routine or our cleanup routine. You don't have to be spontaneous and creative in the moment every time to make playfulness work for you. Particularly if you are having some kind of heavy feelings in yourself. If you need some help getting to be lighter with your kids, build it into your routine. That's absolutely okay. I hope that was helpful, Wendy. Let's see, the next question. Alex says, why parent with playfulness and whatever its benefits? I think we covered that pretty well, but play is the natural language of childhood. It's where they learn and process best. And so joining them in their world can feel really deeply connecting and validating for them. They can feel seen and heard in a way that, adults feel seen and heard when we have a person really connect and understand us. Children feel understood when we join them in the world of play. Let's see. The next one is, I have a hard time being playful outside of our daily 15 minutes of special time during which he calls the shots. Any suggestions would be great. Yes. So I think that we covered that. So yes, that 15 minutes, that's a wonderful starting place. And then there's ways to do it in limit setting and within transitions, and then also for processing any big things that come up or big emotions or traumatic things that might have happened. Let's see. How can I make playing with my kid less boring? Gosh, that sounds terrible, but after 5 minutes, I want to scream. Okay, for me, that seems like a self-care issue. And maybe you haven't found the right games for you and your kids. So in my early days of playing with my kids, our favorite game was nap time, where my kids would pretend that they were the daycare provider and I was the child, and they would put me down for a nap. And I would get to lay on the floor, and they would cover me up with several blankets, and they would pat my back and, shush me. And I would literally actually fall asleep for 20 minutes while they rubbed my back. It's amazing. It's the best game ever. And they feel totally filled up and fulfilled by it. And I get to lay on the ground and sleep. I know that sounds really silly, that works for them, but there's lots of kind of lazy games that you can play too. And I think finding a way to do this authentically that is you, or finding games and activities that you enjoy to do together. So one of the things my older daughter and I do is artwork together, and it's not truly play, but we really love doing crafts and art together, where she's doing her own thing and I'm doing my own thing, but we're kind of doing it together, and that fills up her cup too. Looks like Joy says, I love that game too. Yes, nap time is the best game. If you've never played nap time with your kids, you must play it soon. It's the best. It's wonderful. Let's see, and I think I had one more question over from Kayla. She says, what do you do when you don't feel like being playful? It feels like a chore. Again, so same question. Obviously, you ladies are not alone, and I've totally been there. In addition to kind of taking care of yourself, maybe shifting your perspective on play, of how getting it higher up in how valuable you see it as being, but also being okay and open to the fact that right now it feels like a chore, and that's okay. It's okay to not always enjoy it, and to not want to do it, and to set a limit and a boundary on how you spend your time. I think we spend so much time in what we should be doing as moms and not honoring where we happen to be right now. And sometimes we're tired, and sometimes we're overwhelmed, and that's okay. It's okay to say, honey, I just don't have it in me today to play that game with you right now. I will do this or I will do that, but I can't play that game, because some games just simply are more emotionally draining than others, and they take more kind of vibrance and stuff. And if you don't have, if your cup isn't full, you have nothing to pour from, right? And so, I think it's okay to be authentic and honest with your kids about those things too, about when it's, one of those days where I have a headache, I really can't play the screaming game with you right now. Or, my back hurts, I really can't wrestle you right now. Let's find a different way that we can connect. So being honest about it it's okay. It's okay to not love it too. You can probably find activities that you do enjoy doing, that your kid will love doing with you, and you can do those, and then maybe push yourself a little bit, so that it doesn't feel like a chore. And I think a lot of that is perspective. As I've addressed my own personal journey with depression, my ability to see my children's play as not joining my children's play as not a chore has really increased. And so I really do think taking care of yourself is an important thing too. So having a few games or ideas kind of in your back pocket ready to go, if spontaneity isn't really your thing, building it into your routine so that it's just there and it's a part of it and it's something to fall back on when transitions or limit setting is hard. Don't use it to distract or dismiss big emotions. So if there are big feelings about a limit, you can acknowledge them. And sometimes I even ask my kids if they would like to play a game to make it easier. I know, leaving and going to school is so hard. You really just want to stay home here with me today. Do you think a game might make it easier? Do you think we should play our airplane game? And then usually they want to play that, and they know it's going to be fun, and they're going to enjoy it. And the last thing is to really follow your child's lead. I think one of the big things I see with parents a lot is when they start playing with their kids, especially parents who have really good imaginations, they start trying to direct the play, and kids can be really resistant to that. And then kids say no, I don't want to do that. And they get frustrated with us. And then we kind of take that as a rejection, and we might even take it personally and then say, fine, I'm not going to play with you. And then we kind of move away and the play breaks down. And so really coming from a place of this play is for my child, and so I'm going to let my child lead the play. Sometimes when we're in our special connecting playtime, I will even stage whisper to my kids, what should I say? And then they tell me what my character should say, so that they are really leading the process. That's something that play therapists use all the time. So I hope that that's helpful. I hope it's helpful. I had fun talking about it. This is something that used to be really hard for me as a parent, and through practice and commitment, I've gotten a lot better at it. And I know that you can too if this is something that's a struggle for you. We can't all have it come naturally like it does for my sister. So sometimes you do have to practice and kind of work at it a little bit for it to come more naturally. But, all right, well, that's all I have for you today. Let me know if there are more questions that come up later. If you're watching the replay, please feel free to drop a question in here and I'll come back to you. It was nice seeing you all. Bye.